It's time for some exercises on what we just went through. I have cleaned up the project a little and attached it to this lecture. So if you want to try solving the following exercises, then just download and extract the archive. Then run the npm install command and npm run dev to start the development server. Now for the first exercise. Within the social component, I want to display a headline which includes the name of the article, like the one you see here. For exercise number 2, I want you to add a button for sharing to Twitter, which behaves the same way as the existing button. Make sure to pass Twitter as the media within the event data. For the last exercise, I want to give the announcement component a little attention. Replace its existing content with the title of the latest article that has been shared and which social media it was shared on. Best of luck solving the exercises, and I'll be back in a moment with my solutions. Alright, I'm back with my solutions. For exercise number 1, and displaying the name of the article within the social component, I have to pass in the article to the component. I prefer to pass the entire object, but you could also just pass the title if you prefer. For that, I will add the props property within the component. So let's open up the social component and add the props property here. And I will add this as an object because I'll be defining the type as well as the required property. So first of all, I will name the property article, and this is also going to be an object containing the type and the required property. And I'm setting this to true because I always want the article to be available. As for the template, I will first add a root element because I need to add another HTML element, and remember that components must have one root element. So I'll just add a div as the root element and move the button up there. And now I'll add an h3 tag saying share and then the title of the article, so article.title, and with your friends. And now I need to actually pass the object, which I will do within the article components template. So let's open that up. And in here I'll use the vbind directive as we saw before for passing the article along. So article equals and then the expression. Here I need to pass the article object, but how do I do that because I don't have an article data property? Well, perhaps you remember that Vue provides a special property for us named $data, and this gives access to the complete data object. If I preferred, I could also have nested my article object within an article property, for example. But in this case, the $data property is sufficient for us. So if I open up a browser, we should now see the header being displayed correctly. And there we go. For the second exercise, we had to add a button for sharing to Twitter. So let's go back to the social component. And since I had previously hard-coded Facebook as the media, I need to make the method more dynamic by adding the media as a parameter. So let's do that here. Add it as the single parameter and then use it in the event data that we pass along with the article was shared event. And within the template, I can then pass in the media as an argument when clicking the button. So parenthesis and then Facebook here. And now I'll just duplicate this button for sharing on Twitter. And now if I go back to the browser, we should see the shared count being increased when I click either of the buttons. The last exercise was about refactoring the announcement component to display the latest share. For that, I need to communicate from the social component to the announcement component whenever a share happens. And since these components are not part of a parent-child relationship, I will need to use an event bus. So let's begin by adding that within the main.js file. So I will export it here at the top, export constant events bus, and set it to a new Vue instance. And then within the social component, I can then import this event bus. So import event bus from current directory and main. And within the share method, I can now use this event bus for emitting an event. So I will copy this because it's going to be very similar. And instead of emitting the events on the component itself, I will now use the event bus. But since I also want to display the title of the article within the announcement component, I also want to pass the article itself within the event data. So I'll just add it here to this object. And now we just need to do a couple of things within the announcement.vue file. So let's open that up. First of all, I will import the event bus. And I will also set the announcement data property to null initially, as we'll be setting this whenever the article was shared event fires. Then I'm going to make use of the created lifecycle hook, because that's where I will be adding my event listener for the event that I triggered within the social component. So right here, created, and I'll use an ES6 function. And now I can say event bus.$on, as we've previously seen. And then the name of the event article was shared. And a callback function. And here I'll use an ES6 arrow function. And this function takes the event data as its first argument. And within this callback, I can now compose my announcement. So I'll assign this.announcement. And in here I can access the event data on the data object. So data, and remember that I passed in the article object, so I have that available to me. And on this object I have a title property. And then I will just do some string concatenation and add in the media. And that should be it for the JavaScript part of things. Within the template, I now need to make a few changes as well. I will conditionally check if we have an announcement, because we won't have one initially. So let's change this a bit. And here, make a check with the v-if directive. So if we have an announcement, then I will just output it in a paragraph. And here I'll use the v-else directive and output no announcements yet, also within a paragraph. And now let's open up a browser and see if it works. So now I click the share on Facebook button and we see the announcement component being updated with the article that I just shared, as well as the media. And let's try and see if Twitter works, and indeed it does. So everything seems to look good. And that's it for these exercises. I have attached the finished code to this lecture as well, so you're more than welcome to download it and have a look around.